All right, y'all, part 2 on the Corona baby birth, because everybody has been given that crown in 2020, 2021, and Lady Liberty is going to be pushing them out, all right, of that poo'see. So that poo'see, and that's part of that crapture that's coming. And that man-child that's coming in another way is like, well, y'all will see. So, part 2, I was ending with the so-called village and the rose room and that transformation and that so-called lesbian midwife or that gay midwife. And the gay connects us to the GA, that Georgia, that George AI and such, and then the George connects us to that Washington and your leaders and such, because they like to wear wigs and powder and pantyhose and shiny buckles on their shoes and things like that were shown, okay? And they like to smoke cannabis, that we're told, and they were the Masons or the Masons, okay? So I think this so-called other story of history is talking about the future America, and the one we're taught in school is talking about the old America, but it's also an overlay where we're going to be going into these kinds of two Washingtons, this divide of the nations, to where the bond, we're free in Christ, but then there's others who are like, Christ says we can do all things, we can have fun. And the other's like, we can't have any fun. We hate being human. We hate all 5 senses. We hate the 6th sense. We hate the spirit. We hate all things. Blah, blah, blah. That's when they leave America. Because the freedoms are being tested. As all things are being tested, the rainbow shining bright, the people are becoming blinded. Because they're used to this light over here or this light over here. They're used to the green light, the red light, the blue light. And as all the lights of the rainbow become vibrant, the divide becomes vibrant, and that's where you get the chakras lined up. And depending where you're at on the chakras, where you're at in the rainbow, this thing that has been entered into the body, you cannot rise above the inhale and exhale, and you cannot rise into the part where you know that you are the sons of God, and you have the single I, and the Father and I in the Father, and the kingdom of heaven is in I, and Jesus returns within us, and he is that light within us, and he's been given that light to the elect back in the day when the trumpets have sounded, the trumpet, the ET, the Space Force has sounded, and we're taken into the high place and given that so-called 2020 vision, and some of us have used it, and some of us have squandered it. Okay, I'm the type who I had to figure out what was shown to me. The wife, she had to figure out what was shown to me, what was shown to her. And we put these things, we seam these things together and seam the time together. I've been a hairstylist since 98. That's when I went to hair school. There was a time I did it 8 years as part-time. I started managing my parents' business and doing some things for them for 4 years on average, and then I went into 3 years or whatever, and then I went into owning my own cannabis business, growing and processing and such, and I built that from the ground up. And I had the neighbor dude come and help me on a few things, but otherwise I built that whole 1 acre operation, 1.19 acre operation on Washington land in Oklahoma and Marietta and Love County, where that tornado started that took down the whole city, that took out the Family Dollar and such. All right, that's where my farm was. But things happened, and long story short, the farm ended up saving us for a time and helping us get out of that so-called hellhole Oklahoma is known as. All right. So, long story short, the life of a hairstylist, okay? My life I had to be taken under the wing of somebody that was connected to the Triads per se, and the person, his best friend, was the top level dude that brought in stuff to the so-called Dallas. All right, and when he was popped, the whole scene was changed after that, as far as the supply in Dallas and the party scenes and the clubs and all that stuff. All right, and it kind of like never recovered, but that's a whole nother story. I'm just trying to give you some background about kind of where I've been, because I grew up as a Baptist. I accepted Jesus in my heart. I remember traveling down Irving Boulevard and sitting in that Astro van, and we got that Astro van from one of the #1 Elvis impersonators in the world, and he happened to live in Irving, Texas at the time. I remember driving in that van, and my mom telling me about hell and those things, and I just went to bed that night weeping and stuff. And that's part of hanging your kid over the fire, right? Or bringing that knife up upon him. Well, God's gonna kill you, but God's gonna burn you forever, but you just gotta so, you know, when I had my first child, being a hairstylist and being the background I had, and then the background I had as a teenager and as a child, I said I would never do this, that, and the other. And as lo and behold, I ended up doing this, that, and the other, and plus some. All right. So, I pretty much did everything I said I would never do. And I didn't shed the blood of a so-called man, but I gave my blessing upon a 21 week abortion. And that's when I found out about the so-called seaweed that was packed. Okay, and that's part of that Green Bay Packers maybe. And the Green Bay Packers is tied to the cannabis and the scheduling of from 1 to 3 and those types of things, just as a connection to some other videos I've been doing. But the seaweed packing is where you sit there and watch your woman weep quietly on the couch as she is holding your stomach, and you come over and you put your hand on it, and you feel the baby dying in there. And these things I didn't learn until it was too late. Okay, if I had known this, that, and the other at 21 weeks, so-called, or whatever, I might have ended up with I might have a 20-year-old kid right now. But you know what? These things are taught as a light to us, because I've always been exposed to death with some so-called early age with the step-granddad, George Brecker, and then my grandma, and then this and that and the other, whatever. But the things with death have taught me a lot about one side, and then the things that have happened to me where I'm having this out-of-body experience, or this light around me, or whatever kind of things are going on. It's teaching me this other side, so we have to bring it together and see what's going on. These are all parts of new births. And as since the carnal is changing, the new heaven and earth, as far as the carnal aspect is changing, these people that are the carnal people that go by these lights, this world stage, the 80% that have acted, the 80% that do this, the 80% that do that, or whatever, that culture, that moldy petri dish that needs to be changed. That fun guy is not fun anymore. It's whatever, okay? And we got to change the new petri dish and get a new fun guy going and a new white mold and such. That's part of the white throne, and the white throne is part of in here where Jesus resides, where the right hand is, and the right hand has become a shady hand. But being exposed this way, and these lights or whatever, as a child, as a teenager, and then being exposed to these lights as a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, and then having my first child at age 36 and such, and living my life based on the fear of end times and the fear of Antichrist and the fear of losing my children to the beast system and the fear of losing myself to the beast system and all these other things, okay? All these things are happening within everybody, and they're being exposed to everybody, and they're going to give fruits to everybody. And as some of us have been placed in a higher position of spirit here, in a lower position of carnality here, and in these different lights or blinding lights, the money and these things where we're born, our parents, all these things are different blinding lights. And some of us just been given the right light, the right darkness. All these things combine these things together. Okay, so as I was exposed to these or whatever, I had my first child at 36. Then what I was taught, I don't want to lose my child and have him go to hell and all these other things. So that became my priority. And at the time, the only places, this is all set up by what's going on by the big picture, but what was the fundamentalism or whatever, that was the only place where you could hear like the so-called Bible being preached. Okay, it doesn't, just like where they're teaching out of the Bible as far as the timing or whatever. And if you've been through this time frame in the 2000s and the partying and the drugs or whatever, they had it set up perfectly for the fundamentalism and this, that, and the other to be set up to where there's rushed in through YouTube or whatever, and it creates these so-called YouTube church or whatever kind of thing, and then it takes people into the fundamentalism and it shows them the hate of this culture, of that culture, whatever, and that's where you're being exposed to the bright lights, like, whoa, what the fuck did I enter into kind of thing, and then you're like, man, this doesn't sound right, and while the people that have been in there are like, man, they don't walk away, they don't have the balls to walk, and that's where you get the single eye, where the church is used like, I'm the church, I'm the Son of God, I'm going to have people reflect my light, I'm going to do this and that and the other my way, I'm not going to reflect their light, I'm not going to reflect that pastor's light. Jesus says this, it's not agreeing, okay? So there's different things going on, and then Jesus of Nazareth was not a Jew. Sin is of a Jew religion, okay? So all these things are going together to tell you that to come out of it. And Jesus tells you to come out of it. Laodicea, do you see? Are you the children of the blind? Like Jesus tells you. Woe to the law ears. The law yours. Your law. Woe to the scribes, the teacher of it, and the scribes and the Pharisees, that's your pastors and congregations and all the people that go to the hospitals and schools and all these things. Woe to you, the children of hell. Not my words, the words of Jesus.